Ladies and gentlemen, every one of us carries a picture in our minds of who we could become, the stronger, wiser, more fulfilled version of ourselves. But most never meet that person. Not because they lack the dream, not because they lack the desire, but because they ignore the one thing that decides it all, the quiet force that separates the average from the extraordinary. The truth is, you can read every book, set every goal, and repeat every affirmation. But if you ignore this, you'll never become the person you dream of, and that truth begins right here. So many people wake up each day with good intentions, yet they remain trapped in the same routines, wondering why nothing ever changes. They look at their goals, they look at their vision boards, and they say to themselves, one day. But one day never arrives. Not because the dream isn't possible, but because they've built no structure to sustain it. A dream without discipline is like a ship without a rudder. It drifts wherever the current takes it, and the current of life, make no mistake, always flows toward comfort, not growth. Discipline is the only force strong enough to sail you against that current. There comes a time when you must stop waiting for motivation and start moving through principle. Motivation is fleeting. It's a spark that fades as quickly as it appears. Principle is steady. It endures the storms. The person who depends on motivation will stop the moment they feel tired, bored, or uninspired. But the person who lives by principle will move forward regardless, because they've made a decision that their actions are not up for debate. That decision, to act consistently, is the moment discipline takes root. And once it takes root, it becomes almost impossible to tear down. You'll notice something about the people who seem unshakable. They're not controlled by the chaos around them. They've built systems inside themselves stronger than any storm outside. They understand that every day is an opportunity to train the mind, to discipline the body, to sharpen the will. They do not chase feelings, they create momentum. They rise early not because they feel like it, but because they said they would. They work when it's hard, not because they enjoy the struggle, but because they know the struggle is the sculptor of the soul. And if you think about it, everything you truly admire in others is born from discipline. The artist who paints masterpieces, the athlete who breaks records, the thinker who transforms ideas into revolutions, all have mastered the same invisible force. Their genius is not luck. It's the product of daily, deliberate action. Behind every moment of brilliance lies 1,000 unseen hours of focus, sacrifice, and repetition. That's what discipline is. It's what you do when nobody's watching, when the applause is silent, and when only your future self will know whether you stayed true or gave up. Each morning you have a choice. You can either feed your excuses or feed your evolution. Both require energy, but one drains you while the other transforms you. Excuses sound comforting. They whisper, "You've earned a break." Evolution is quieter. It whispers, "You can do better." And when you start listening to that quieter voice, life begins to shift. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You begin to understand that every choice, no matter how small, either pulls you closer to your vision or pushes you further away from it. Discipline teaches you patience. It reminds you that growth never happens overnight. You cannot rush the seasons, and you cannot skip the process. The seed doesn't demand to bloom tomorrow. It simply endures the darkness, knowing that time and consistency will bring the light. The same law applies to you. You are in your season of becoming, and that requires persistence when progress seems invisible. The most significant transformations are silent. They happen deep within, before the world ever notices. When you ignore discipline, you not only delay your growth, you distort your perception of what's possible. You start believing that success belongs to others, that maybe you weren't meant for greatness. But the truth is, You were never missing potential. You were missing consistency. Potential is the promise of what could be. Discipline is the path to what will be. The person who wins is not the most talented. It's the one who stayed consistent long enough for talent to reveal itself. The danger of ignoring discipline is subtle. It doesn't destroy you in a single day. It erodes you slowly. You skip one task, then another. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. But every time you betray your own commitment, you weaken the bond between your word and your will. And once that bond is broken, it becomes easier and easier to quit. Discipline is what keeps that bond strong. It's the reminder that your word is sacred, that if you say you will, then you must, because your future self is counting on your present actions. The great irony of life is that discipline, which feels restrictive at first, is the very thing that gives you freedom. Freedom from guilt, from procrastination, from regret. When you live undisciplined, you're at the mercy of your impulses. You say you're free, but in truth you're enslaved, to laziness, to distraction, to comfort. But when you take control of your habits, you take control of your destiny, you experience a deeper kind of freedom, the freedom to build, to grow, to choose the path of purpose over the path of ease. Every time you do what's hard, you grow stronger. Every time you stay committed, you grow wiser. Life rewards those who persist beyond the point where most give up. It's not about doing extraordinary things. It's about doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. The difference between a dream and a reality is often just one more day of discipline, one more repetition, one more choice to stay the course. You'll find that discipline doesn't just shape your habits, it transforms your identity. At first, you force yourself to act like the person you want to be, but over time, you no longer have to pretend. You become that person, the one who follows through, the one who honors their word, the one who commands respect from themselves first, and from others second. Discipline builds self-respect, and self-respect builds unshakable confidence, the kind of confidence that cannot be given, only earned. Think of the person you dream of becoming. Picture them clearly, their posture, their habits, their mindset. Now understand this. Every day you either feed that person or starve them. Each decision is a vote for or against your future self. When you choose discipline, you cast your vote for greatness. When you ignore it, you cast your vote for mediocrity. And over time, the votes add up. They become who you are. You will face moments when your mind screams to stop, when the pain feels unbearable, when progress feels pointless, when it seems like nothing is working. In those moments, discipline is your only ally. It whispers, "Keep going." It reminds you that struggle is temporary, but quitting lasts forever. It tells you that every mountain looks impossible until you're standing at the top, looking down at the path you once feared to climb. Most people look at those who have achieved success and think they must have had it easy. But what they don't see are the years of quiet discipline, the sleepless nights, the internal battles. They don't see the countless times those people wanted to quit but didn't. Success leaves clues, and every clue points back to one thing: the mastery of self. That is the greatest victory a human being can achieve. To conquer their own impulses, to rise above their own limitations, to discipline their mind until it obeys their will. The world will always test your resolve. It will offer you shortcuts, distractions, and excuses. It will tempt you to settle, to lower your standards, to give up just before the breakthrough. But you must remember, nothing worthwhile is ever achieved without endurance. Every great transformation requires resistance. The diamond is formed under pressure, the sword is forged in fire, and the person you dream of becoming will be built the same way through discipline, repetition, and resilience. When you understand this, you stop looking for easy days. You begin to welcome challenge because you know that each challenge is carving you into the person you were meant to be. You begin to find satisfaction in the process itself. You learn to fall in love with effort. That's the secret, the great paradox of discipline. At first it feels like duty, then it becomes habit, and eventually it becomes joy, because you start to realize that the work is not the obstacle, it is the gift. The work is what transforms you. The life you dream of is waiting for you, but it will not wait forever. Each day you delay, the gap widens between who you are and who you could be. Discipline closes that gap. It doesn't require perfection, it only requires consistency. You will stumble, you will fail, you will have moments of weakness, but discipline isn't about never falling, it's about never staying down. It's the quiet decision, renewed daily, to keep moving forward no matter how many times you've been knocked back. And when the day finally comes when your results reflect your effort, when you stand in the life you once imagined, you'll understand something profound, that it was never about the dream itself. It was about who you became in the pursuit of it. The dream was just the mirror that revealed the strength you always had within you, and all along discipline was the key that unlocked it. The truth is, the path to becoming who you dream of isn't meant to be easy. It's meant to test you, to separate those who merely wish from those who are truly willing. Every trial you face is not designed to break you, but to build you. The obstacles aren't in your way, they are the way. Discipline gives you the strength to face them without flinching. It's the quiet force that steadies your hand when everything around you trembles. The inner voice that says, "I've come too far to give up now." Every single day, the world will hand you reasons to delay, to take it easy, to convince yourself that your goals can wait. But deep down, you know that's a lie. You know that if you don't act now, if you don't push now, the dream will fade a little more each day. The fire will dim, not because it was weak, but because you refused to feed it. Discipline is the oxygen that keeps that fire alive. It's what turns potential energy into kinetic power, the difference between intention and action. Most people live reactive lives. They move when life pushes them, they stop when life pulls them. They allow the tide of circumstances to dictate their direction, but the disciplined mind is proactive. It decides the course and sails toward it, no matter how fierce the waves become. That's why the disciplined individual seems unstoppable, because they've already made peace with the struggle. They've already accepted that growth will cost them comfort, and they're willing to pay that price every single day. You'll never find a person of greatness who hasn't endured seasons of discipline that felt unbearable. The writer who wakes before dawn to face the blank page, the entrepreneur who works in silence for years before a single person notices, the athlete who trains long after others have gone home. Each understands that greatness demands repetition long before recognition. The discipline to keep going, especially when no one claps, is the birthplace of mastery. What separates the successful from the stagnant is not intelligence, luck, or talent, it's commitment. It's doing what must be done long after the mood has left you. Emotions are temporary, principles are eternal. When you build your life on emotion, it crumbles with every storm. But when you build it on discipline, it stands firm through them all. That's why the disciplined person doesn't chase motivation. They generate it through consistent action. And every action, no matter how small, compounds over time into something extraordinary. There will be days when you question whether it's all worth it, when progress moves so slowly that it feels invisible, when the results you crave remain out of reach. But remember this, Discipline is not about immediate gratification. It's about planting seeds that will grow into forests long after you've forgotten the act of planting. Every disciplined moment is a seed, and one day you'll walk through the garden of your efforts and realize that every act of persistence, every decision to push forward, created something magnificent. You must stop thinking of discipline as deprivation. It's not taking something from you, it's giving something to you. It's giving you power over yourself. It's giving you direction when confusion sets in. It's giving you pride when you look in the mirror and see someone who didn't quit. Discipline is the foundation of self-love because it's proof that you care enough about your own future to make sacrifices in the present. It says, "I respect myself too much to waste my potential." And that kind of respect changes everything. When you start living with discipline, the world begins to shift in subtle ways. You notice opportunities others overlook. You think clearer, act faster, and recover stronger. You no longer waste energy on things that don't matter. You stop living by the clock and start living by purpose. And as that transformation takes hold, you begin to realize something profound. Discipline doesn't limit your life, it expands it. It allows you to do, become, and experience things that the undisciplined will never know. There's a certain peace that comes with discipline. It's the peace of knowing that no matter how chaotic the world becomes, you have control over yourself. That peace cannot be bought or gifted. It must be earned through consistent effort and self-mastery. Every act of discipline strengthens your inner fortress, and when you've built that fortress brick by brick, you no longer fear what life might bring, because you've already faced the hardest battle, the one within yourself. The mind is a garden, and discipline is the gardener. Without discipline, weeds of doubt, fear, and laziness take root and choke the life out of your potential. But when you tend to that garden daily, removing distractions, watering focus, planting determination, you create a mental landscape capable of producing extraordinary results. The disciplined mind doesn't dwell on failure or comparison. It asks only one question each day: did I move closer to my goal? And that simple question, answered honestly, becomes the compass that guides a life of meaning. There's a misconception that discipline is harsh or rigid, but in truth, it's the purest form of love you can give yourself. It says, "I believe in my future enough to protect it." It's the refusal to let short-term comfort destroy long-term potential. And while the undisciplined chase pleasure, the disciplined pursue purpose, and in doing so, they discover deeper joy, the kind that lasts long after the moment has passed. Discipline might close the door on comfort, but it opens the door to fulfillment. You will be misunderstood. You will be called obsessed, extreme, or too serious. People who settle for average will try to convince you that average is enough. They'll mock your focus because it reminds them of what they've abandoned in themselves. But don't let that shake you. Discipline demands isolation before it brings elevation. You must be willing to walk alone for a while before you lead others by example. And when your results begin to speak, the same people who doubted you will come asking how you did it. Discipline also teaches humility. It reminds you that progress takes time and that no one is above the process. It grounds you in patience and gratitude. Each small victory becomes meaningful because you know what it cost. And through that understanding, you begin to appreciate the journey itself. You stop measuring your worth by how far you have to go and start valuing how far you've come. Discipline transforms effort into meaning. It turns struggle into strength and time into transformation. Every breakthrough you seek lies just beyond the threshold of discomfort. Most people retreat when they reach that threshold. They stop just before the miracle happens. But if you can endure a little longer, if you can keep pushing when your mind begs you to stop, you'll discover that the pain was never permanent. It was simply the toll required to cross into a new level of yourself. That's the beauty of discipline. It reveals your limits, then teaches you how to exceed them. Think of discipline as a compass, always pointing you toward your highest potential. Even when you wander, even when you fail, it brings you back to center. It keeps you from drifting too far from your path. Without it, you're at the mercy of the winds. With it, you become the captain of your soul. You start living with intent rather than impulse, and that single shift changes everything. Because when your actions align with your values, your life aligns with your vision. So, each morning when you rise, remind yourself that the person you aspire to be is already within you, waiting for proof through action. Every moment of discipline is that proof. Every choice to persist when you could quit, every refusal to compromise your standards, every day you show up when no one else does. That's how you become who you dream of. Not by wishing, not by waiting, but by doing the work daily, relentlessly, faithfully, until the dream and the doer become one and the same. There will always be another challenge, another mountain, another goal. But as long as you keep building discipline, no challenge will be too great, no mountain too high, because you'll have built within yourself something stronger than circumstance. The ability to act with purpose, no matter the conditions. That's the power that separates those who only dream from those who truly become. And when you understand that, when you embrace discipline as your greatest ally, you'll realize that you were never chasing success. You were cultivating the strength to sustain it. You will come to understand that discipline is not a momentary act. It is a lifelong practice. It's not something you master once and keep forever. It's something you renew every single day. Each sunrise asks you the same question. Will you stay loyal to your purpose, or will you give in to your excuses? Discipline is not decided in grand gestures or public displays. It's decided in the small, unseen moments when no one is watching. It's in the choice to rise when the alarm rings, to focus when your mind wanders, to keep moving when progress feels invisible. As the days pass, discipline will begin to change the way you see the world. You'll stop searching for easy paths because you'll understand that ease was never the goal. Growth was. You'll stop chasing temporary satisfaction because you'll learn that the deeper joy comes from knowing you've kept your word. You'll look at challenge not as punishment but as opportunity. Every time you endure something difficult without quitting, a new version of yourself is born. And that version is always stronger, wiser, more capable than the last. There will come moments when your mind will whisper that you've done enough, that maybe this is all there is, that maybe the dream was too big. But discipline will whisper louder. It will remind you why you started, remind you of the promises you made when you were tired of being average. It will remind you that every second spent wishing you had done more could have been a second used to do more. The disciplined person doesn't dwell on what could have been. They act on what can still be. The great paradox of life is that those who discipline themselves the most experience the greatest freedom, because they are free from the chains of procrastination, free from the regret of inaction, free from the guilt of wasted potential. Freedom is not the absence of structure, it's the mastery of self within it. The person without discipline is like a leaf in the wind, tossed by every whim and distraction, but the disciplined are like root, anchored deep, unmoved by storms, drawing strength from the soil of their own persistence. The disciplined life is not glamorous in the beginning. It's filled with long hours, quiet work, and little recognition. It requires saying no more often than yes. It demands that you sacrifice comfort for progress, and sometimes it will feel like you're moving in isolation. But those moments of solitude are sacred. They're the times when you're being reshaped, when your mind is being rewired for greatness. Because discipline doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. And when you change who you are, you change what's possible for you. You begin to attract opportunities that once seemed out of reach because now you have the character to sustain them. The world doesn't give more to those who wish for it. It gives more to those who are prepared for it. Discipline is that preparation. It's the silent investment you make in your own potential, knowing that one day the dividends will appear in ways you never imagined. You must remember that every time you act with discipline, you're training the mind to obey your vision, not your emotions. The emotions will always try to pull you toward comfort. The vision will always call you toward growth. The disciplined person listens to the vision. They understand that emotions are fleeting, but purpose is permanent. They don't wait for the mood to be right. They create the mood by acting right. That's the real secret to consistency. You don't rely on inspiration, you rely on integrity. As you continue to build discipline, you'll notice something else. It begins to influence others. Your example becomes a silent teacher. Without even trying, your commitment will challenge those around you to look at themselves differently. You won't have to preach discipline, you'll demonstrate it. You'll show through your actions that excellence is a choice, not a chance, and in that way you'll begin to impact more lives than you ever could through words alone. But discipline will also test your patience. Because progress, though guaranteed through consistency, rarely happens on your timeline. There will be days when the results don't match the effort, when you feel like your hard work is invisible. That's when most people quit. But the disciplined know something vital. Effort never disappears. It compounds quietly beneath the surface, and one day all that invisible work will erupt into visible success. But only for the one who stayed faithful long enough to see it bloom. The undisciplined wait for the perfect conditions to begin. The disciplined create the conditions through their actions. They understand that progress doesn't start with the right circumstances. It starts with the right decision. Every great journey begins with one small step taken consistently. The disciplined know that momentum is built by movement, not by waiting. They act now, not later, because later is the language of regret. Every excuse you make steals a piece of your future. Every delay pushes the dream further out of reach, but every act of discipline brings it closer. It's a simple exchange. The price you pay today determines the reward you hold tomorrow. And when you choose discipline over ease, effort over apathy, you're making a declaration to life itself. I am serious about becoming who I was meant to be. That declaration changes everything. Life responds to seriousness. The universe moves in favor of those who move with intention. Discipline will teach you resilience. You'll learn to adapt, to adjust, to find a way even when the path ahead is unclear. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is that you refuse to stay down. Discipline is the voice that says, try again. When failure echoes in your mind, it's the courage to stand back up, knowing that each setback is refining you. Over time, you'll come to realize that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the companion of it. The disciplined don't fear failure, they learn from it. In time, discipline becomes second nature. What once required effort becomes automatic. You no longer battle with yourself each day to stay focused. You simply are focused. The mind becomes your ally rather than your adversary, and that shift, subtle yet powerful, is what separates the achievers from the dreamers, because once you master yourself, there's nothing left that can truly defeat you. The greatest victories are always internal before they are external, and as you keep walking this path, you'll notice something miraculous. The gap between who you are and who you dream of becoming begins to close. Each disciplined action, each moment of perseverance brings you closer, until one day, almost without realizing it, you become the person you once admired from a distance, not because of luck or chance, but because you chose to act daily on what others only talk about. You'll see that the dream was never waiting for the right time. It was waiting for the right you. But remember, the journey doesn't end there. Discipline is not a destination, it's a way of living. It doesn't retire once success arrives. In fact, success requires even greater discipline to sustain, because the moment you stop doing what got you there, you begin to drift backward. The disciplined know this. They never allow success to make them soft. They stay hungry, humble, and consistent. They understand that growth is a lifelong commitment, not a temporary effort. Discipline will eventually become your greatest comfort. Where once you craved ease, you'll begin to crave structure. You'll find satisfaction not in avoiding effort, but in giving your best to every task. The process itself becomes the reward, because you'll have learned that what truly fulfills the human spirit isn't leisure, it's progress. The feeling of knowing you are better today than you were yesterday, that you are actively shaping your destiny, that you are living with purpose. That's the real joy of life. And when the noise of the world tries to distract you, when others chase the latest trends and shortcuts, you'll stay grounded. You'll know that discipline is timeless. It never goes out of style because it's the foundation of all achievement. While others look for secrets, you'll continue practicing the same truth that has guided every great person who ever lived. Do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not, and do it with excellence. That is the essence of mastery. That is the path to becoming the person you dream of.